Hello and welcome to the top 10 most common mistakes record labels make. This is like a mini module. It's a webinar, if you will. I'm going to try to go fast because I don't want to waste your time. But there are 10 things that I've highlighted that I've learned from our community members. I've learned from our podcast episodes and my own experience running a label. And so if you are in the early stages of running your label, or maybe you've been running your label for 5 to 10 years and you're always looking for ways to improve, then this is for you. If you are just thinking about starting a record label, and I know that a lot of people in our audience, that's you, these are 10 big picture things that you should avoid. Some of them are a little bit more practical and tangible, but but a lot of them are just really big things you need to be on the lookout for. Things that will help you save money, things that will help you save time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm Scott. I don't know if we've met. I do the podcast. I have some videos. There's a bunch of resources on our website. Check it all out. Great to meet you. The goal of this webinar is, there's so many things on the internet that is things to do. You know, try this, try that, little hacks, little tweaks and tips. The goal of this webinar is to focus on 10 things that really will stand in your way no matter what you're doing right. There are 10 mistakes that people make, and I see it happen all the time. It frustrates me. It makes me sad. And so those are the things that we're going to tackle and we're going to try to get on top of. And if you are, like I said, just starting a label, then these are things that we can get ahead of and help you hopefully completely avoid. There are some things that I am going to show you at the very end that I'm going to give you that will help you in this journey. So make sure you stick around for that. So, like I said, I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to just plow through this and kind of just brain dump my experiences and some of the stories that I've heard from other record labels that I've interviewed on the podcast or that have shared on our Facebook group. Some of the 10 most common mistakes that record labels make and that record labels have regretted making. And we're going to prevent you from making those. Number one, not giving your releases enough lead time. Let me just say, I don't remember when I put these slides together if I put them in order of importance or not, but there's only 10 of them, so let's just say they're all equally important. Number one is not giving your releases enough lead time. What is lead time? Lead time just means that if you get the masters from the artists in March, and your release date is in September, that's 6 months, then that is your lead time. You've given yourself a lead time of 6 months, and that is an incredibly great position to be in, to have that type of lead time. Why do you want to have generous lead time? Well, first of all, what's the mistake that we see? What we see record labels do, and we see independent artists do that, is they get the masters back on December 1st from their mastering engineer, and they have the artwork and immediately they upload it to Bandcamp or to DistroKid. And then without any fanfare, without any teasing or announcements, they release the record right away. And there's nothing to be held back. There's no mystery anymore. Everything is just dropped on the internet. And all of that hard work was just let out at once. That's a huge problem because we're basically giving away the farm. We're giving away something that the artist has worked on. They've written it for a year, they've recorded and mixed it for another year. And so we're taking all of this work and just basically like putting all of your chips. What is that game at the casino where they roulette? Where you're putting all your chips on like one number and literally one release day, as opposed to like a single here, another single here. Let's leak the album artwork in a cool way. Let's do a music video. And so when you just dump it all at once, that's a big problem. There are like surprise releases. I've done that before. There is an appeal to that. So that's like an exception to this rule. But make sure you give your releases enough time. There are potential delays. Right now, there are significant delays at record pressing plants, upwards of a year delay. And I'm hearing now similar things with cassettes. And it won't be long before, if you go back to CDs, everyone's going to be hopping back onto the CD train. And so we really want to make sure that we're giving ourselves enough lead time to allow for those manufacturing things to happen. Spotify for artists. So if your artist is registered or you've registered on behalf of your artist to Spotify for artists, then you're going to want to make sure that you've uploaded their track through your distributor, and so that it shows up as an upcoming release in Spotify for artists. And you're going to want to do that. I've heard at least 2 to 3 weeks will at least, at the very least, allow you to be put on your followers and the artist's fans' new release or release radar playlist. So at least 2 to 3 weeks. Apple Music likes to spit back records that have weird artwork or weird song titles. They're very picky about that. So you want to allow for those things to go wrong. Bandcamp Editorial has been asking for releases that are like 3 to 4 months in advance. So I just sent them an album in July, early July, that's coming out in early October. So July, August, September, October. That's 4 months in ahead of time. They got back to me the same day and said it's scheduled for new and noteworthy section. So that's great news. But they've scheduled it on a certain day in the new and noteworthy section. And I reserved that spot, and I didn't get it. I only got it because they were kind to me. They liked the record. But I got that I did it because I reserved that spot 4 months in advance. So if I had emailed them 2 weeks ahead of the release and asked for it, forget about it. They're already booking into the new year by that point. There's also just this less stress. There's more room for creativity if you give yourself enough lead time, because you are, the album is already at your distributor. The album is already at the pressing plant. You can just sit back and relax and now think of some creative promotional stuff. Are you going to do some cool offline promotion in your community, putting up posters around town or some pop-up gigs? Is there relationships you're going to build with writers and journalists and bloggers? All these things you have now time to do, as opposed to having the record in your hands and then coming out in like 3 or 4 weeks, and you're rushing to do everything all at once. It's a bad position to be in. Number 2, letting an album die after release date. So we're on the topic of releases. And so when I talk about giving your album 3 to 4 months lead time, preparation before the release date, so that you can get it off to manufacturing, you can take your time on the artwork, you can take your time on creating a great brand surrounding the album campaign. We have a video about that. You can do all of these things leading up to the release date. But then what happens is record labels are completely burnt out on release day. They hope to get some coverage on release day, maybe a couple the weekend after or the next week after. They're trying to relight that fire. But it's so hard because the cat's out of the bag, and it's hard to kind of reestablish any of that mystery that the pre-release had. Well, the solution to not letting an album die after release day is making a plan at the very beginning that starts on release day. And so my friend Jamie Coletta is a music publicist and did a course with us in our marketing course. She created this thing that I thought was really helpful. And it's a post-release strategy. And so like we come up with campaigns and pre-release strategies, at the same time, we need to have a post-release strategy that kicks off on release day or even the day after release day. And so that post-release strategy looks things like you have a music video that you hold back, or you have a B-side that you hold back and you're going to release at the 1 month mark. I think it's really important to have something really big to be releasing once a week in the month after the album has come out. I think that could be an interview, that could be an audio commentary from the artist, it could be a tour that launches, it could be a music video that you've held back. Then after that 1 month after release day, then I would basically like to have something big to release either once a month or every other week in the 3 or 4 months after the album comes out. When you're at the 6 month mark, remember, an album that's 6 months old is still a baby. You shouldn't think that this is old news. I know there's bloggers and there's playlisters who won't cover records that are not released in the same year or that are, have already been released. They like to have fresh stuff. That's fine. That's their problem. Don't worry about that. You need to take care of your own promotions, and you need to have your own plan in place so that your album doesn't die after release day. I have a record that I'm working on right now. The album comes out in a couple of months. So we're in the pre-release strategy time zone right now. And my post-release strategy is a single that's going to come out a couple of months after. That's a B-side single. Then there's an acoustic there's going to be like an instrumental album, a version of that album that's been mixed differently without vocals and has different artwork, and it's going to come out on a different format. That's going to be in about the 3 to 6 month range after the album comes out, and there's going to be a whole campaign about the instrumental part of that record. And then there's an acoustic version of that record that will come out on the 1 year anniversary. So I have a whole year planned after an album comes out as a way to keep like milking the album. So make sure you have a plan in place. Just don't let the album die. The third most common mistake I see is worrying about the small things. We have a Facebook community. I get emails from record labels every single day, and they ask me questions that are good questions. They're important questions, but they're so small. And they're things that I worry get in the way of you taking action, get in the way of you finally working with an artist, releasing a record, and getting this label off the ground. That could be like legal and financial delays. Maybe you want to have $1,000 in savings, or maybe you're worried about how much of an advance you should give the artist, and you're worried about building up a following on social media till you reach 10,000 followers so you can have a swipe up feature. You're worrying about all these little things. You're worrying about trademarks and should I mean, these are all things that you should worry about eventually. It's part of starting a business, but do not let the small things, the administrative, the technical things paralyze you from ever starting at all. Just get started. Get started, start to build your brand, and grow your business in tandem with while you launch. If you launch in real time and you build your business while you're launching, of course there's things I like to do. And in my book, I talk about keeping things secret, but I like to build things up and then eventually launch. But you improve your systems. You start off your royalty spreadsheets with these like Google Docs that are a mess. And then maybe 6 months or 6 years down the road, you finally hop over to a software platform like Infinite Catalog or something similar to that. And so it's okay to kind of develop as you are growing as a business and as a record label, but just do not let these small things paralyze you from just getting started. That's really important. One more thought before I move on about worrying about the small things. We as like entrepreneurs who have the imposter syndrome, who are stressed and worried about how things are going to go, we are always looking for excuses to not move forward. That's just our human nature. We are looking for someone to tell us that we are a fraud. So don't let that be you. Don't let these small things prevent you from getting started. Number 4, copying other record labels. I do this all the time. I am sitting on the couch. I should be working. I should be creating. I should be working with artists and making music and spreading the word about this music. Instead, I'm on Instagram. I'm looking at these cool labels who are doing cool things. I'm looking at people who have better beach bodies than me, and I'm comparing myself. This is the plague of our social media generation. It's counterproductive to copy big labels. Do you know why that's true? It's counterproductive because we don't want to be like big labels. We started an independent record label because we want to do something different than how the major labels do things. We want to offer something that is unique. So do not copy big labels, because that's completely against why we exist. And that goes all the way down from if they release pre-release singles, and yet we don't know why we release pre-release singles, if we don't have a strategy for why these singles are coming out, if we're just doing it because the major labels or bigger indies are doing it, you need to reevaluate everything you do if you're just copying other record labels. Competition is the opposite of creativity. So when we are creating in a vacuum. We should be forgetting about everyone else, and we should be doing something that is authentic and uniquely us. And then that will shine, and that will make our record label special. But when we compete with other people, we try to play at their game, then we're not being creative at all. That's not creativity, and your record label is going to fail. So stop wasting time on social media. Stop trying to copy other record labels or taking a format or a model from a major record label and trying to copy that yourself. That's not the way forward. And it's a big mistake I see a lot of new labels make. And gosh, it's a big mistake I see labels who have been around for 10 years making, still trying to copy other people. You see it on like promotions. You see it on Black Friday, where a label will announce this big Black Friday sale. And then like Sunday, like a couple days after Black Friday, like little labels will say, oh, hey, we're also launching a Thanksgiving sale. And you can just tell it's reactionary as opposed to being proactive. Another big mistake I see people making is letting your website get out of date. Now, we're creating some big resources for how record labels can make great websites easily and sustainably. The problem I see with record labels is, and I research record labels every single day, and I go to their website and there is like a banner that is announcing an album that's coming soon that's actually was released 3 months ago. This is a big problem. It sends a signal to our potential fans and our fans that we are not on the ball, we're not professional, we're inactive, we're not really a brand that they should be following along with or that they should be concerning themselves with. It's a very simple thing to keep your websites up to date. And here's how you do it. Number one, keep it simple to begin with, which means keep it sustainable. Don't have a blog, a news section, all of these things, banners that have dates on them. Don't have things that require you to go in daily or weekly to update them, because when your life gets busy, if you're running your record label as a side hustle, as most of us are, when life gets busy, you forget to update these things. And all of a sudden people go to this website and it looks totally out of date. So if you are not going to be able to sustain a website, then keep it simple in the first place. The second way to keep it up to date is to conduct a monthly audit or a weekly audit if you have time to do that. What does that mean? Put a note in your iCal or your reminders that pops up on your phone on the first of the month or the first Monday of the month. And it says, go to your website. So you go to your website, you type in your address like a normal fan would, and you kind of like look around your website and click through the links just like a random person would be doing. Click on your social media links. Just make sure everything is active. I went to somebody's website recently, like this was a big brand, and I clicked on their social media link and it went to like a dead, they must have changed their Instagram handle or username. And so now that link on their website doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, my goodness, like, so just once a month, go to your website, click through a bunch of things, see if it's working. And as soon as you get there, I guarantee you, every time you're going to find something that's like, oh, this is wrong. You know, we're missing something here. This banner shouldn't be here anymore. It's very simple. Number 6, are you having fun? Not being organized or utilizing systems. When I talked about that web audit, going to your website once a month, setting a reminder, that's a system. It's a very easy thing to do. Then you can forget about your website because your phone reminds you on the first Monday of every month, go to your website, make sure everything looks clean. It could even be weekly if you're on top of things. I see a lot of record labels who are wasting time because they don't reuse templates, they don't duplicate their previous work. I have a press sheet, a press sheet that I use. It's a Squarespace page that is hidden behind a password. And in it is like, it looks like the track listing of the upcoming album, the release date, the artist, a little bio, a picture of the album, a SoundCloud embed. It's a really simple Squarespace page that I built. Now, building that page took me maybe an hour, 2 hours, but now moving forward for a future release, I go to my Squarespace, I click on that page, I right click on the gear box and I say duplicate. It then duplicates that page to a completely new page, saving the original. Then I can, on that duplicated page, I can replace the artwork and the track listing and the embed code, but the layout all stays the same for the next new release. That's using a system, that's duplicating things. Another system I see people use that's really helpful is a centralized location for all of your assets. What are assets? Like, so if you're promoting a record, I use Google Docs actually, and I have a bunch of links in there. In my Google Docs, I have my track listing, my release date, the release date of the upcoming singles, the IRSC codes, the UPC code of the album, a link to a high-res JPEG of the album artwork, a Dropbox link to the high-res press photo for the artist. I have a private link to the SoundCloud album. I have a private MP3 download. It's all in this one Word doc or Google Doc. It's like the Google Sheets. And it's so helpful. I've been working on this record, like promoting this record for about 3 months now. And I would say a couple times a week, somebody emails me and say, oh, hey, do you have a press photo for this? Do you have the Google Doc that is the lyrics for this album? Right click, copy, paste in the email, done. It's all centralized in this one thing. The mistake that record labels make is that you are running all over the place saying, where's the artwork? Where did I put this? Stay organized It's very simple to do. Reuse systems. One of the best analogies that I heard about a system is that and I read this in a book, and I do this at home too. At the front door in my house, I have a bowl for my keys, and the keys for both of our cars, and there's like 2 sets of keys for each car, go in this bowl. And so when you walk in the door, whatever time of year it is, you toss your keys in this bowl and they crash in the bowl. And 99% of the time, that's where our keys are if we're not driving the car. That is a system. I have never lost my keys. I've never run around the house looking for my keys, checking coat pockets, looking in the couch. They're always in the bowl. I walk in the door, I toss my keys in the bowl, and they're always there. That is a system that we have created in this house that saves us tons of time so we can focus on the things that matter. And the same thing needs to happen at a record label, creating systems that make your job easier and free you up to do great things like creative things and inspiring artists and working with fans and providing great music for fans. One of the mistakes I made was releasing too many records at once. I still kind of struggle with this. If a record is done, I want to get it out there. And my first year, I think I released like 12 albums. In fact, I had 3, if not 4 major releases all in the fourth quarter that were all full-length records. And then guess what? In the first quarter of the next year, I had nothing. In the second quarter of the next year, I had nothing. Why didn't I hang on to 1 or 2 or 3 of those records and trickle them out slowly? It's really important to allow for a generous lead time. We talked about that at number 1. Don't feel pressured to copy other record labels' strategy, release schedules. If you see them releasing 1 record a month, that doesn't have to be for you. Because I'm really inundated with the podcast right now, my record label is like a little bit of a back burner right now as I focus on the podcast. And I'm only able to do 1 major full length a year because my passion right now is focusing on this community and on this podcast and on the other record label's website. And so, but my label, I still love my label and I want to nurture it. But right now in this season, I can only do 1 major release a year. Now that includes some B-sides and other versions and music videos and singles and sometimes, and there's EPs here and there. But for right now, and that will change, I'm just doing 1. So you have to do what's right for you. If you have a system, if you have a way of doing 1 record a month and that works for you, great. But also, and this is one thing I failed to do, was giving an album its day in the sun. When you release a record and then like 3 weeks later, you're promoting another record, you're kind of interfering with that post-release strategy of the first record. So make sure you give everybody a nice 3-month window to promote and to celebrate this new release before you move on. This is a practical tip. Number 8, not charging enough for shipping. This happens all the time. Get estimates on all potential products. So take your t-shirt, your CD, your tape, your vinyl to the post office and say, I sometimes ship these to the UK. I sometimes ship these elsewhere in Europe. I sometimes will ship these to the US. Sometimes I'll ship these to Canada. Ask the postal office, or you can do this online if you have a good, if your country has a good shipping database, and get quotes and then create your shipping rates that you include in Limited Run or Bandcamp or on your website that will allow you to charge fairly for shipping. Have that accessible rate so you know how much it costs on average to ship a record to Europe or to ship a record domestically in America or to ship a record to South America. You know those prices. If they're a lot of money, you're going to have to communicate that to your foreign audience and say, listen, I'm sorry, it costs more than the vinyl itself to ship it overseas, but that's the way it is. Be fair to your customers, but also be fair to yourself. Too many labels are going bankrupt because they're shipping tapes and they're burdening themselves with the cost, or they're shipping vinyl and they're burdening themselves with the cost. Make sure you share that expense with the artists, with the fans. Here's another mistake I made. This is a classic one: signing artists for the wrong reasons. What are the wrong reasons? Well, the wrong reasons are you find an artist and their music is okay, but they have 100,000 followers on Instagram, or they previously had a single picked up by an official Spotify playlist. And now you want them in your realm because you can brag that that artist is on a Spotify playlist, or they have the are verified on Instagram. These are wrong reasons for signing an artist. They are very nice things to have. If you find an artist and they're a really good person and you want to help their career and you want to help them succeed and you want to be a part of their life, but they also happen to have 100,000 followers on a verified Twitter or Instagram account, or they've been on a Spotify playlist, great. Those are just bonus things. That should not be a reason why you sign an artist. I've made the mistake. I was working with an artist who wasn't right for my label. They were super talented and really great, but they weren't the right personality for my label. But I thought I could monetize them because they were young. They had a huge social media following that was growing really fast. And so I thought, hey, maybe I could just make money off of this artist. That was and that relationship exploded in a bad way, imploded. It was a terrible process, and I learned a huge lesson. Sign an artist because you love the music. That should be obvious. Sign an artist because they are respected by people you respect. They're a friend of a friend. Don't work with bad people. I know that should be obvious, but you need to tell yourself that. And don't work with an artist for strictly commercial reasons. If you are in this 100% for the money, then that's fine. Do whatever you want. I see too many labels trying to do too much. We talked about this at the very beginning. Grow in tandem. There's this thing, what is it, where it's like crawl, walk, run. You have to grow naturally, slowly. Let it take time. Don't try to do everything all at once. Don't try to start a YouTube channel and a really active Instagram account and releasing a record every 2 weeks and creating Spotify playlists that you're trying to get other people to follow so that it boosts your artists. Don't try to do everything all at once. Eliminate things that are not going to make you money or not going to fulfill you in your passions. If you're just doing things because other record labels are doing them or you think you should be doing them, eliminate them. Number 2, automate things. We talked about this before. Have an auto response to your email that guides new listeners or some demo submissions to be sent to you in a proper way. Tell your demo submission, the artists that send you demos, tell them that you listen to demos on the first Friday of every month. And so you won't hear back from me until after that day. Automate as much as possible and delegate. Bring friends into the equation. Bring people on. Don't try to do this on your own, and try to bring in people who are talented in specific areas. You can use Fiverr. I've started to use Fiverr recently for things where people are better than me at things. Why am I wasting my time doing things that I suck at? So a big mistake I see labels make is trying to do too much. Look for things that you can eliminate. Look for things that you can automate, like we talked about with systems, and look for things that you can delegate to other people on your team or to people that you pay. Okay, I got a bonus tip. The number one, and this should be number one, the number one thing that I see, the mistake that I see record labels make is giving up too soon. I've literally seen it once a month by people in our community. Record labels and businesses take time. It really does. I can't tell you, when I look back at even just the growth of this other record labels community, it was a very, very, very slow climb, but it's growing. And now when I look back at where we are and the things we're accomplishing in 3 years, same with my record label. Nobody knew who my label was. And then I remember one time a couple years ago, I was at a show and somebody saw me on the street and was like, "Hey, are you Scott from Other Songs? I'm a big fan of your label." And I was like, "What?" That was a huge breakthrough for me, but that took like 7 or 8 years. So persevere, be persistent. Write an alert on your phone in 6 months with a little encouraging note that says, "Hey, are you still doing the label? Keep at it." Do another alert in 1 year, in 1 year and 6 months, in 2 years, and write a little note that says, "Keep at it." I look at these labels that I follow on social media that we've had on the podcast that I've interviewed, and they've been at this for a long time, 5, 10, 25 years, and they're still grinding and they're doing great. They really are. And it makes me sad when I see labels who give up too soon. And the thing is that when you give up, you don't know where your breakthrough point could have been. You'll never reach that breakthrough point if you give up. If you stay persistent, it might be in your first year, it might be in your first 5 years, it might be in your first 10 years. Somewhere there, you have this breakthrough point where you start to break even, where you start to have an audience that begs you for new releases. When you sign an artist that has a huge breakout success, or you come up with an initiative that isn't an album release. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a YouTube series, maybe it's a book you write, something that is your breakthrough point. You just have to stick with it and be persistent and consistent. I hope you found that helpful. Let's go over them again. Number 1, not giving your releases enough time, letting an album die after release date. By the way, I'm going to give you something in a second here that you'll find helpful. Worrying about the small things. Number 4, copying other record labels. You can be inspired, but just don't directly try to copy them. Letting your website get out of date, not being organized or utilizing systems, releasing too many records at once. Number 8, not charging enough for shipping. Number 9, signing artists for the wrong reasons. Number 10, trying to do too much. And then our bonus one was giving up much too soon. The whole goal of other record labels is these mistakes, is dealing with these mistakes. It's in the stuff that we create, our free resources and the courses are to create systems and actual plans, like actual strategies that fix all of these problems that we just talked about, to tackle them head on. These are things that I see that are extremely consistent. Mistakes I made 10 years ago when I started my label, 11 years ago. Mistakes that I see labels still making today. And so that is why we exist. And our resources and the things that we have on this website are about a mindset shift. It is a way for you to change the way you look at running a record label, to give you to help you set up goals, whatever they are, whatever they're unique to you, goals and actual action steps to say, okay, this is how we're going to be successful. This is how we're going to avoid making these mistakes. You write them down on a piece of paper, in a Google Doc, in a checklist that I give you, and you move forward in making good decisions and taking action and reusing systems, creating these great systems and then finding ways to reuse them so that you can focus your mental energy elsewhere on creating, on signing bands, on those type of things. This course, the record label marketing strategies, I don't know if you've seen it on our website or if you've tried it out, but there is like tons of modules in here that is focusing on how to promote an album campaign. So you have a new single or a new EP or a new album, and how do you build that album campaign? There's a lecture from a publicist, a music publicist. It's like basically like this is like getting a free publicist tutorial, like from a music publicist on how to build an album campaign, how to work on those post-release strategies as well, how to manage your social media, how to promote a record label from when it's still in the recording stage to where it's 6 months after. This record label marketing strategies course is our flagship course. It is a big deal. It took us an entire year to build. And there's, I think there's about like 150 to 160 labels who have gone through this course, and they have great things to say. They've all gotten back to me. And I love to see people go through this course and basically create these goals and these action steps and these strategies to promote their releases. If you are not there, maybe you are not yet at that stage where like building an album campaign, doing your own in-house PR, is you are actually a little bit before that, and you are just thinking about starting a record label, and I know a lot of our audience is, then we have a smaller course that's not as big, but it dives in extremely deep on how to start a record label, talking about branding, talking about marketing your brand, and then marketing your releases. It talks about distribution and manufacturing. It talks about publishing, all of an A&R, all of the things that you need to learn, some of the terminology. There's some downloadable templates, and that is in our How to Start a Record Label course. So the first thing I want to give you is go to otherrecordlabels.com/record label mistakes, where I've taken a lot of these mistakes and I've put them into a checklist or a list that you can hang up on your wall to remind you to avoid doing these things. The other thing is these courses that I've talked about. These are an investment into your record label. This is something that over 100 record labels have dived in and taken to help improve how they run their record label. I want to give you $25 off. That's more than a percentage discount. I just want to say, if you've come to the end of this webinar, I can't believe it. That's awesome. Thank you. So go to otherrecordlabels.com/courses. And this is a coupon code just for you. Don't share it around. It's webinar 25, which gives you $25 off any of our courses, any of the bundles that include the courses, to help you get started. The other thing I want to mention about these courses, and it's written all over the website, you can just try them out. If you feel like I went through the market, like literally go through the whole course at your own pace, take a couple of months, go through the marketing strategy course. If you're like, Scott, this didn't help me, then just send me an email, podcast@otherrecordlabels.com, and I'll refund you 100%. No questions asked. I honestly, that has never happened. I swear to you, that's never happened. But I just want you to try these. And if it doesn't give you action steps, if it doesn't give you goals and things to help improve your record label and the way you run your record label and the way you help your listeners find your artists find listeners, then just let me know. These courses are 100% guaranteed. Honestly, I promise you this. Just send me an email and no questions asked. Thank you for going through this. This has been fun for me. I like talking about mistakes. I hate to think back on all the mistakes I made, but I hope that this helps you not make the mistakes that I know a lot of record labels have made and regret making. And I know that I've made. So I hope that you found this helpful. Thanks very much for watching.